Three triplets perform heartfelt song outside hospital. Shocking billionaire surgeon reveals secret. The sun blazed overhead, casting a scorching glare on the somber hospital facade, where the air felt thick with tension. In the parking lot, three identical figures stood, their hearts pounding in sync. The triplets, dressed in faded t-shirts and worn jeans, clutched their guitars, ready to unleash a melody that would intertwine their lives with a shockingly wealthy surgeon they had never met. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but beneath that joy lay whispers of intrigue. What could possibly unite these innocent musicians with a billionaire who had the power to save lives? As the first note pierced through the heavy atmosphere, a hush fell over onlookers. Their haunting harmonies danced like fireflies against the backdrop of sterile buildings. Suddenly, an ear-piercing wail echoed from within the hospital. Fear gripped the crowd, their breath hitching as all eyes turned toward the entrance. Nurses rushed past, faces pale, their clattering shoes ringing like alarm bells. The triplets exchanged glances, an unspoken question hanging between them. Was their song about to change someone's fate? As they strummed the final chord, an imposing figure emerged from the building, a tall, imposing doctor with piercing blue eyes and a reputation that caused both reverence and dread. This was Dr. Tobias Grimstone, the billionaire surgeon known for his staggering success rates and icy demeanor. Yet today, something was different. His brow furrowed, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of emotion crossed his composed face. He was not the unshakable man the world portrayed. Curiosity soared. Was he human, like the rest of them, burdened by secrets that stretched deeper than the hospital walls? Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The haunting silence that followed the last note was palpable. Could a single song alter the trajectory of lives entwined in fate? Eyes widened as they sensed an undeniable charge in the air. The triplets had awakened something in Dr. Grimstone, a memory long buried. As he approached, the crowd parted, anticipating a revelation. But just then, a phone rang out, shattering the stillness with its sharp tone, and Dr. Grimstone's expression shifted from one of contemplation to icy resolve. Would he divulge the hidden truth behind his wealth and secrets, or was this just another day in the life of the enigmatic surgeon? The triplets felt their hearts race, knowing something monumental was just a breath away. Dr. Grimstone's eyes flared with frustration, and he turned abruptly, grabbing his phone from his pocket. The crowd held its breath as they watched him step back into the hospital, sealing away whatever fleeting moment of connection had just sparked. The triplets felt a mix of dread and urgency pooling within them. "Should we follow him?" one of them whispered, gripping his guitar tightly. The others nodded, sharing the same nervous energy. The triplets dashed toward the entrance just in time to catch sight of the surgeon disappearing through a set of double doors. The tension in the air crackled like static, urging them forward. Inside, the sterile smell of antiseptic hung thick. They felt like intruders in a world of white coats and hushed voices. The hustle and bustle blurred past them, but their focus remained fixed on the quickly vanishing silhouette of Dr. Grimstone. With every step deeper into the hospital, their hearts pounded louder, drowning out the chaotic sounds around them. Was this a mistake? Would their pursuit only lead to more questions, more pain? But they had come too far. They had seen something in Dr. Grimstone, something raw. Maybe they could pull that secret from the dark. Suddenly, they found themselves in front of a glass-paneled waiting room. A crowd of anxious families shifted uneasily in their seats, their faces drawn and worried. A nurse walked by, her eyes glazed with exhaustion, whispering something inaudible to a colleague. The triplets halted, realizing they were standing on the brink of tragic stories unraveling. It was a thin veil between life and death, hope and despair. Their instinct urged them to move along. They pressed on, slipping through another door, entering a dim corridor lined with bustling medical staff. In the distance, they saw Dr. Grimstone again, now speaking urgently with a nurse. His hands moved animatedly, and for a moment, vulnerability broke through his icy professionalism. "Do you think he is okay?" one triplet asked, voice barely above a whisper, as they tried to catch more of the conversation. "I don't know, but something's wrong," the second triplet replied, tension ripping through his words. "Maybe he needs our song again." It helped him connect. But connection was not what they had in mind. They wanted answers. They wanted justice for whatever wounds lay hidden beneath the surface of this man's facade. Could this powerful surgeon be harboring the truth about something far graver than just financial gain? Dr. Grimstone's voice rose, unheard beneath the white noise of the hospital. The triplets exchanged glances and nodded. They needed to confront him. They felt the call to action surge inside as they approached without hesitation. "Excuse me, Dr. Grimstone." They stepped into his path, guitars at the ready, an unexpected whirlwind of determination fueling them. The moment felt electric, and they could almost hear their hearts pounding in sync again, like the first notes of their monumental song. His eyes narrowed, catching them off guard with a mix of annoyance and surprise. "You performed outside. What more do you want?" Tension hung in the air, thick enough for a knife to cut through, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats. What would they say? Would they push him to reveal the truth, to set off a chain of events that could flip their lives and the lives of countless others upside down? But before they could respond, the siren of an ambulance screamed to life outside, echoing through the hallways, almost mocking their brave confrontation. As uncertainty loomed, what would it take to break the facade of the untouchable surgeon? The key to understanding might just be locked away within those sterile walls, or maybe even within the enigmatic heart of Dr. Grimstone himself. And as they stood there, ready to unearth whatever truth lay buried, one question echoed louder than all the others: how much were they willing to sacrifice to find it? Dr. Grimstone's expression shifted, his irritation melting into something that might have been fear. The siren faded, but its echo lingered like a ghost in the sterile hallway. The triplets, eyes wide, stood grounded. The moment felt monumental, time stretching thin like the taut string of a guitar, ready to snap. "Why are you really here?" he demanded, a fierce intensity brimming beneath his calm exterior. "What do you think you'll uncover with your little song and dance?" "More than you think," the first triplet replied, voice steady despite the pressure. "We've seen your pain, the masks you wear. There is something deeper going on beneath this facade, a secret you're hiding." Dr. Grimstone's gaze hardened. His jaw tightened, a muscle twitching at the corner of his mouth. An image flickered in his eyes. Was it shame? Regret? The triplets watched, breath caught in their throats, as a whirlwind of emotions played out in his face. "Secrets?" he spat, his voice dropping dangerously low. "You don't know what you're asking for. Sometimes silence is the only thing keeping people safe." "Safe?" The second triplet stepped forward, heart hammering in his chest. "Safe from what?" "From you. From the truth. People deserve to know what is happening in this building, how lives are being affected." The surgeon laughed bitterly, an empty sound that sent chills racing down their spines. "What do you know about life and death? About saving someone who has lost everything? It's not as simple as you think." His voice rose again, echoing off the walls. The tension spilled into the air like a shaken soda can, ready to burst. Suddenly, a muffled cry pierced the tension. The triplets exchanged alarmed glances, their instincts driving them to investigate. They leaned past Dr. Grimstone, seeing a patient being wheeled in, faces twisted in fear hovering over the gurney. Nurses rushed, voices raised in urgency, creating a chaotic symphony of desperate calls and responding actions. The moment strained, and the triplets felt the weight of something powerful build inside them. What if their song could rally everyone here, their music bringing clarity and hope to those shadows? But their hearts were heavy, every note was tinged with the knowledge that one of those gurneys held a life teetering on the brink. "Maybe you can't handle the truth," they heard Dr. Grimstone hiss. "But I can, because I've had to bear it." He dragged a hand through his hair, anguish painting his features. You don't know the cost. Just then, a gurney was rolled past, revealing a familiar face, someone from the crowd outside, someone they had shared a moment with, someone they were supposed to save. Panic gripped the triplets. They had stumbled upon a web much larger than their assumptions. What happened? Shouted the third triplet, feeling the ground shifting beneath him. Doctor. Grimstone stepped back, fear flashing in his eyes before he turned on his heels, storming away. You want the truth? He called over his shoulder. You'll have to dig deeper than you could ever imagine. As the sound of his footsteps faded, the triplets stood paralyzed, realization dawning on them. What they thought they were seeking was only the beginning. The weight of dread crashed over them like the closing of a heavy steel door. There was no turning back now. What secrets lay beneath the surface of a mission that had only just begun? With stakes higher than they imagined, could they truly confront the darkness lurking within those walls, and what would happen if they did? The echo of Dr. Grimstone's footsteps slipped away into the distant chaos, leaving the triplets shrouded in an unsettling silence. They looked at each other, the urgency thrumming in the air like an electrical charge. What had they walked into? Their instincts screamed to follow the surgeon, to demand answers before he slipped completely out of reach. Come on. The first triplet urged, already moving toward the nearest nurse's station. We need to find out what just happened. They pushed past the crowd of anxious relatives, their hearts racing with a mixture of fear and determination. Every few steps, they stole glances back at the gurney they had seen. The face haunting them was a blurred reminder of a promise made just hours ago, a promise to make a difference. At the nurse's station, a frantic nurse held a clipboard, frantically scribbling notes. Her face was pale, beads of sweat forming on her brow. Excuse me. The second triplet called, voice rising above the troubled chatter. What is going on? Who was just brought in? The nurse barely glanced up. I can't, there's too much happening right now. Her voice trembled, and the desperation in her eyes told them she wanted to help but was clearly overwhelmed by the tides of urgency swirling around her. Please. It's someone we know. The desperation in the first triplet's voice made the nurse pause. She looked at them, seeing their sincerity flashing behind their pleading eyes. There was a car accident. Multiple victims. I can't. She hesitated, then leaned closer. If you're not family, I really can't give you any information. Then let us help. The urgency bubbled up in the second triplet's throat. We can sing, we can help with the patients. Just tell us where you need us. The nurse hesitated, the chaos swirling around her seeming to dim momentarily. Please stay out of the way, she finally said, her voice softening. There's a waiting room you can wait in. I can't have any distractions right now. They nodded, understanding her position but feeling the weight of helplessness burying them deeper. As they turned to leave, panic flickered through their minds like a faulty light bulb. They were not here just to perform, they were on a mission to uncover the truth. Maybe we should split up, the third triplet suggested. One of us can search for Dr. Grimstone while the others check the waiting room. There might be someone there who knows what is going on. Reluctantly, they agreed, knowing their safety might depend on staying as close as possible. But deep inside, they were already aware of the growing chasm between hope and reality. They moved quickly, the chaotic symphony of the hospital vibrating through the floor beneath their feet. As they entered the waiting room, the heavy air thickened, overcrowded with the sense of fear and grief. People sat, some hunched forward, heads buried in hands, others whispered prayers, glancing at the clock with haunting urgency. There, in the midst of shadowed faces, the triplets spotted a young woman, tears streaming like rivulets down her pale cheeks. Are you all right? The first triplet asked, kneeling beside her. My brother, she gasped, catching her breath as her heart broke into pieces. He was in that accident. I don't even know if he suddenly, the air shifted again, the hospital's sirens blurring into the background. A loud crash shattered the moment, a horrifying sound from the nearby corridor. The triplets turned in unison, dread pooling in their stomachs. What was that? The second triplet whispered, a chill running down his spine. The cries of the patients blended with the sirens, creating a cacophony of unsettling urgency. They exchanged glances, the thrill of danger coursing through their veins. They couldn't back down now. The truth was right there, buried under layers of desperation and fear. What had Dr. Grimstone been hiding? With the stakes climbing ever higher, could they truly uncover the secrets of this place before it was too late? As the crash reverberated through the halls, the triplets knew this was only the beginning of something much darker. They crept toward the source of the crashing sound, hearts pounding loud enough they feared someone could hear them. Cowards, they thought as terror gnawed at their resolve. A brief glance around the chaotic waiting room confirmed the pervasive dread clinging to the atmosphere. Stay close, the first triplet urged, his breath hitching as he scanned the corridor beyond. Flashing lights cast eerie shadows that danced along the walls. They moved, stepping carefully into the unknown, adrenaline heightening their senses. The cries and murmurs from the waiting room faded behind them, swallowed by the thick tension wrapping around their bodies. What if it's another patient? The second triplet murmured, eyes wide. Or someone hurt by the accident. The words caught in the throat of the third triplet like a sob. They heard distant voices, sharp and anxious, a mixture of authority and fear. As they rounded the corner, an emergency crew rushed past them, shouting commands. Their vivid orange vests blared like warnings, and the triplets instinctively flattened themselves against the wall. Clear the area. A paramedic barked, urgency lacing his voice like threads of panic. We need to get this under control now. What's happening? The first triplet sidestepped, but wasn't he bold enough to ask directly. He was just a kid caught up in a world of adult terror. But another sound pierced through, the unmistakable wail of a siren nearer than before, echoing their heartbeats. They pushed themselves forward, driven by an unseen force of destiny dragging them toward the chaos. A scream shot through the hallway. The third triplet froze, panic flooding back in waves as they reached the doorway where the crash had happened. Stop! Yelled an older nurse, her face drawn tight with fear. Get back! But before they could respond, a figure burst through the doorway, a man, disheveled and frantic. Eyes wild, he struggled to get control, clutching his side as blood dripped down, pooling onto the floor. Help! He gasped, collapsing onto his knees. They're here. They're coming for her. I swear it. Cold dread wrapped around them like ice, paralyzing their feet. That voice, something in it felt wholly familiar. They exchanged fleeting glances of realization. This man had been talking to Dr. Grimstone just moments prior. Without thinking, the first triplet stepped forward. Who's coming? What are you talking about? The man looked up, panic spasming across his features. Davy got his voice sputtered, and with a final shudder, he collapsed fully to the ground, gasping for breath. Suddenly, the expanse of the corridor held shadows much darker than before. The potential for violence crackled through the air. Call for help. The second triplet commanded, his voice breaking through the mounting dread. But as the words left his mouth, the lights overhead flickered, casting morbid shadows with every pulse. Something's wrong. The third triplet shouted, the urgency ripping through the suffocating fear. They needed to get back to safety, but something whispered in their hearts it was too late. They could not turn away now, not when it mattered so much. In that moment, a cold realization set in, crawling beneath their skin. Dr. Grimstone wasn't the only one hiding something. As footsteps marched ominously down the hall, they could see a dark figure emerging from the shadows behind the paramedic team, slipping silently into the chaos, intent on something sinister. What do we do? The first triplet whimpered, eyes darting about for an escape that wasn't there. The third triplet's mind raced. We can't let them get away. We have to find out who that was, no matter the cost. With hearts pounding like drums in their chests, they crept deeper into the murky unknown. What terrible truth lay just beyond their reach? And who exactly were they up against in this twisted game of life and death? The stakes soared higher, and they ventured further into the dark. Little did they know, their lives, as they knew them, hung in the balance, and the next shocking revelation was waiting just around the corner. The echo of the man's final breath hung heavy in the air, a dreadful reminder of the terror lurking just beyond their sight. The triplets exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing among them. They couldn't turn back now. Whatever lay ahead, it demanded their courage. "Stay behind me," the first triplet murmured, summoning a strength he didn't quite feel. The corridor stretched before them, seeming to breathe, filled with a pulsating rhythm of fear. Every inch was smeared with the urgency of the injured man's cries, his offering of warning. "Who is that?" The second triplet whispered, pointing toward the shadowy figure that had crept closer, melding into the chaos of paramedics and nurses. The dark presence slipped past them, eyes scanning desperately for something or someone. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging the hallway into near darkness. Whispers swelled, barely audible, curling around them like fog. "We have to go now," the third triplet urged, pulling at his brother's arm. But deeper instincts overruled the urge to flee. They needed answers. The first triplet edged closer, straining to hear amidst the frantic chatter of emergency radio crackles and the check of chaotic footsteps. A distant shout twisted through the corridor, accompanied by the shattering crash of glass from somewhere nearby. "Did you hear that?" he gasped. The others nodded, eyes wide as they tightened their circle. They pressed on, each step echoing down the narrow passage. As they neared a doorway marked with a bright red "Authorized Personnel Only" sign, they hesitated. "Are you crazy?" the second triplet hissed. "That's where we shouldn't go." "And yet that's precisely where we have to," the first triplet countered. "Whatever is happening, we have to know." Heartbeats synchronized into a rapid march. They exchanged glances laden with dread and defiance before pushing through the doorway. What they found inside surpassed their worst fears. A room buzzing with energy, a team of doctors huddled around a gurney, urgent hands working swiftly to revive a figure obscured by bright lights and frantic bodies. "Stand back!" a voice barked, and chaos boiled into focus. A nurse shoved them back, her face showing both panic and awe. "We need to stabilize her." "There's no," a doctor's words cut off, but it was not the shouting that filled the air. It was the figure on the gurney. The girl had dark hair, tangled and matted, her face fragile as porcelain. "It couldn't be." "No," the third triplet breathed, stepping closer, hardly aware of the risk. "It's not her." But it was. Is that Lily?" The second triplet's voice cracked, disbelief coursing through him. Their sister lay unconscious, fighting against a force crueler than fate, an agent of their past they thought buried. A rush of urgency flooded them, but they froze as the shadowless figure moved again, lurking at the periphery. No longer hidden, it stepped into view, a tall man in slick dark clothing, half concealed at the doorway, his gaze locking onto the triplets with a predatory intensity. "Don't!" the first triplet shouted, raising his hand as an unyielding wave of panic washed over. But shock paralyzed them like ice. He could see it now. This was the man behind it all, Grimstone's keeper, his plans intricately woven into the chaos that held them captive. Just as their voices rose, battling against the tide of chaos, the lights flickered one last time and then went out completely. A deafening silence settled in an instant. In that void, darkness seeped in, stealing both sight and sound, and then the unmistakable click of a gun echoed through the stillness. The triplets stood frozen in the black abyss, hearts frantic against their ribs. Everything fell away. Who was this man? What were his intentions? "Lily!" they shouted in unison, but the only reply was the weight of dread pressing down on them, thick and suffocating. What would happen next? They were running out of time, the darkness closing in, and their sister's fate teetering at the edge of the unknown. Could anybody save her? Their next move could change everything, or seal their fates forever. The darkness wrapped around them like a shroud, thick and heavy. The click of the gun sent shards of ice through their veins. Breath caught in their throats, the triplets strained to fight against the overwhelming instinct to flee. Stranded in a moment stretched by fear, each second felt like a heartbeat. "Stay calm," the first triplet whispered, though his own voice trembled. He could barely see his brothers through the smothering night. "We need a plan." Suddenly, a sharp gasp echoed in the blackened nurse, her silhouette illuminated momentarily as a flicker of emergency lights fought to rise. "Get back!" she shouted, fear rushing through her words. There's no, but the words shattered with another echoing gunshot, sending its vibration through the walls. A scream sliced through the air, the sound of shattered nerves. "Lily!" They screamed again, desperation clawing at their chests. Time felt suspended, the darkness conjuring images of what would happen if they lost her. Is this really how it ends? The second triplet thought, thoughts racing like wildfire. They had fought against darkness their entire lives, only to have it close in at the hospital where they should be safe. Suddenly, the first triplet gripped his brother's arms. "We have to do something." The flickering lights cast eerie shadows as he moved toward the dark figure, hand raised like a shield. "What do you want? Why are you here?" The man in slick clothing remained silent, his eyes glinting like a predator's, calculating and cold. They hadn't noticed the small group of medical staff slowly retreating, the flicks of light creating a scene where every face wore a mask of fear. "Run!" The third triplet shouted, but something snapped in the first as he planted his feet firmly. He felt a burning resolve pulse through him. This wasn't just about survival. It was about saving Lily. His gaze flowing to the gurney, he realized they were each a heartbeat away from losing her forever. "Stop!" The first triplet lunged forward, fists clenched as adrenaline surged. "If you want something, take me instead." The tall figure finally moved, eyes narrowing, intrigued. "You are brave," he replied, voice low and ominous. "But does bravery save your sister? Does it face the reckoning of the truth?" "What truth?" The words pierced the chaos like a lightning bolt. The silence that followed felt oppressive, heavy with unvoiced secrets. The flickering lights glared down, heightening the tension, a leaden anticipation that curled beneath their skin. "Lily, she was never safe here," he began, words dripping with twisted amusement. "She's tied to a legacy you don't understand, a legacy that's yours whether you like it or not. The choices you make tonight will dictate everything." "Shut up!" The second triplet shot back, fists trembling. "You don't get to play these games with us. Just let her go." "Games?" The man shifted, and that predatory gaze bore deeper. "There's so much more at stake. You step through this door willingly, you all might find out just how deep this rabbit hole is." The sirens outside grew louder, creeping closer, drowning out the tension as the world blurred into distractions. Sweat trickled down the first triplet's spine. They were out of time, and with every passing second, Lily remained in danger, a victim of the unseen horrors lurking just out of sight. "Is it worth it?" the voice asked, mocking, "to save your sister?" Tension crackled like electricity, hearts racing as they stood on the precipice of a choice that could alter everything. What was the truth? What legacy? The weight of unseen eyes bore heavily on them, the air thick with secrets waiting to be exposed. With the darkness still surrounding them, each triplet made a decision shadowed by uncertainty, one that could lead them into madness or into salvation. "Are you ready?" The man's slow smile promised chaos. They took a collective breath, each of them prepared to step into the unknown, the darkness pressing upon them, their hearts racing for the truth. What awaited them beyond that threshold? Would they uncover the horrific legacy that intertwined their fates, or lose everything they held dear? The tension in the air thickened, heavy with unspoken fears and shadows that danced just beyond the reach of flickering light. The first triplet took a step forward, his heart thumping like a drum in the tight silence. "What do you mean, Lily's not safe?" His words were laced with desperation, slicing through the oppressive dark. The man's smile widened, a cold, snake-like grin that sent chills racing down the spines of the brothers. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." But first he gestured towards the door, the metal frame missing a few rusted bolts, enough to suggest it was meant to be a threshold between here and something far worse. Are you brave enough to step inside? Each triplet glanced at one another, the silent communication familiar and panicked. They could hear the distant wail of sirens, each shriek a reminder that time was running out. What if this man was right? What if Lily's life depended on what lay behind that door? We're not afraid, the second triplet finally said, voice shaking but determined. We'll do whatever it takes to save her. He stepped forward, fueled by equal parts fear and fury. Good. I thought you might say that, the man replied, his voice dripping with sadistic amusement. Let us see how far your determination goes. He moved aside to reveal a dark corridor, the air stifling, suffocating even. Like a broken dam, they felt an urgency swell within them, a fierce need to protect their sister at any cost. The first triplet led the charge into the unknown, with his brothers close behind, each footstep echoed through the narrow corridor, the flickering lights casting monstrous shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. At the end of the hallway, they could hear muffled voices, whispers filled with dread, a sharp contrast to the distant blaring sirens above. Every instinct screamed at them to turn back, but the image of Lily, vulnerable and trapped, propelled them forward. What legacy? What did you mean about her being tied to something? The first triplet shouted into the darkness, frustration boiling over. Suddenly, a low chuckle rumbled from a hidden corner. The triplets paused, darting nervous glances at each other. You'll find the answers at the end of this path, the man growled from behind them, his voice now tinged with an unsettling echo. But be prepared, everyone in this family has a role to play. Stop it. Just tell us. The third triplet yelled back, fury mixed with fear electrifying the air between them. This is about her life. In time, you'll learn that everything has a price, the man replied cryptically, his form melting further into shadows as he backed away. The brothers exchanged looks, dread coiling like a serpent in the pit of their stomachs. Each of them could feel the weight of the words hanging over them like a dark cloud, a heavy portent of doom. They pressed on, turning the corner into another room, only to freeze at the sight before them. Lily lay there, peaceful yet pale against the starkness of the sterile bed. Monitors beeped steadily, but the white noise did nothing to ease their mounting anxiety. A figure hovered beside her, face obscured by shadows but undeniably familiar. Who are you? The second triplet asked, a visceral fear twisting in his throat. The figure turned, revealing glinting eyes, the same ones, the same eyes that had haunted their dreams. It's time we talked about who you really are, boys. Time to unwrap the secrets you don't even remember and the legacy you can't escape. As those words echoed in the cold air, the first triplet felt the chaotic pulse of dread and a strange sense of awakening. What secrets lay hidden in their past? What was the legacy that could put Lily's life at risk? The shadows closed in around them, the darkness whispering promises of chaos, and the triplets stood at the threshold of revelation. Would they be able to face the truth, or would it consume them whole? Then, the lights flickered one last time, plunging them into an unnatural darkness. In that moment, they heard the softest whisper, as haunting as a ghost, "You've been chosen." What did that choice mean? And would they be strong enough to embrace it? The darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket, intensifying the stifling atmosphere. The first triplet's heart raced, thumping against his ribs like a frantic prisoner. Beside him, his brothers exchanged glances, brows furrowed in both fear and an unspoken resolve. Chosen for what? He finally whispered, the words barely escaping the tight grip of his throat. The shadowy figure moved closer to Lily, fingers brushing gently against her forehead. A pang of possessiveness surged within the first triplet. "Don't you dare touch her!" he shouted, stepping forward, desperation clawing at his insides. The figure straightened, a slow chuckle spilling from their lips, warped and twisted. "She is safe for now, but safety is a fragile thing within these walls." With a flick of the wrist, they gestured toward a small door on the opposite wall, barely visible in the dim light. "Walk through there, and you'll find the answers you seek. But remember, every truth comes with a price." "What are you trying to say?" the second triplet demanded, his voice strained but firm. What do we have to sacrifice? Sacrifice? The figure leaned in closer, eyes gleaming with a manic light. Not everyone can handle the truth, boys. Some truths shatter bonds, others forge them anew. The words hung heavy in the air, saturated with a weight none of them could ignore. Unfathomable dread wound through the triplets, just a glimpse of this new world hinted at horrors lying in wait for them. The first triplet's resolve hardened. He glanced at the second and third, and together they nodded, a silent agreement forming among them. Fear be damned. They'd come too far to turn back now. With a deep breath, they approached the small door, their feet echoing against the sterile floor. The moment the first triplet turned the knob, a wave of cold air burst forth, gathering the tension in its grip. He hesitated, then pushed inside. A room unfolded before them, stark, pristine, and starkly empty. The walls were lined with towering shelves filled with files, ancient tomes and small, glinting objects that hummed with energy. But above all hung a large mirror, its surface shimmering unnaturally, twisting reflections that seemed to warp reality. What the hell is this place? The third triplet breathed, eyes wide. Answers, the figure's voice echoed behind them, now rich with anticipation. But be prepared. The mirror shows not only who you are but what you've always been, what you've always hidden. The first triplet stepped toward it, drawn by an irresistible force, the mirror reflecting the raw urgency in his expression. Lily needs our help. He shouted, voice bouncing off the walls, crying for clarity amidst the confusion swirling around them. Look closer, the figure urged, stepping back into the shadows, leaving only their eyes visible, glimmering with intrigue. With his heart in his throat, the first triplet leaned closer to the mirror's surface. What he saw made his breath catch. It was not just his own reflection staring back, there was something deeper, darker lurking beneath the surface. A darkness that mirrored the secrets they had carried all their lives. Just as comprehension began to crystallize, the ground trembled beneath their feet, sending a shockwave through the room. The shelves rattled, papers flew into the air, and the mirror crackled with bizarre energy. Enough of this. The second triplet shouted, driven by fear for Lily. We need to break this cycle. Just then, a deafening crash echoed from outside the room, the unmistakable sound of wood splintering and metal buckling. Panic surged. Get back! The first triplet yelled, flinging himself toward the door as chaos erupted around them. The figure melted away into darkness, the whispers growing louder. You can't escape your fate. It's just begun. As the energy pulsed, and shadows writhed against the walls, the flickering lights went out entirely, plunging them into endless darkness. In that frozen moment of terror, a chilling voice echoed once more in their minds, a harbinger of their choices. You've chosen to uncover the truth. Now face the consequences. What awaited them when the lights came back on? And would they be ready for the darkness within? The cold grip of darkness seemed eternal, an oppressive absence that swallowed them whole. In that void, the triplets huddled together, hearts pounding, breaths shallow. They could feel the weight of dread pressing down on them, desperation like an anchor dragging them deeper into silence. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to existence, illuminating a different scene. Their surroundings had shifted dramatically. The room, once stark and foreboding, now resembled a small, sterile hospital break room. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting bright beams over a cluttered table filled with papers. The air buzzed with the faint sound of distant chatter, as if reality had granted them a brief reprieve. But it was a false comfort. The moments slipped through their fingers like grains of sand. They could still feel the echo of dread in their bones. Where are we? The third triplet whispered, his wide eyes darting around, searching for answers. I don't know, the first triplet admitted, squinting at a nearby bulletin board plastered with photographs and news clippings. His heart sank as he read, Billionaire surgeon's miraculous healings, our lives being saved or sabotaged. We need to find Lily, urged the second triplet, his voice breaking with urgency. If she's in danger, we can't waste time. With determination surging within them, they spiraled into action. They bolted toward the hallway, fueled by the thought of their sister trapped somewhere vulnerable and alone. The echoes of their hurried footsteps bounced off the walls. Yet, doubt lingered on their shoulders, the weight of the sinister figure's words haunting them. As they hurried through the corridors, they passed nurses and doctors bustling to and fro. Their faces were a blur of focused intensity, but among them, the triplets sensed a veil of secrecy cloaking the entire hospital. It felt stifling and deceptive. Then, they spotted a familiar figure in scrubs, a nurse they had seen moments before, her expression strained yet familiar. As they approached, her eyes widened. "Please, you have to help us," the first triplet pleaded, stepping closer. "Where's Lily?" "Of course. Follow me." The nurse nodded, her urgency igniting their spirits. She led them through another set of double doors, past tense conversations and anxious relatives, until they reached the ICU. The scene that met them hit like a truck. Monitors beeped in irregular rhythms, a chorus of urban chaos that was simultaneously alarming and comforting. There, amidst all the machines and sterile sheets, lay Lily, connected to an array of wires and tubes. Her face was pale, but the rise and fall of her chest, though faint, was a welcome sign. Why was she brought here? The second triplet choked out, clenching his fists. Fear threatened to consume him whole once more. There was a severe head trauma from the accident. She's critical, the nurse replied, her tone somber. But she's stable for now. Stable? The first triplet's voice strained at the edges. What does that mean? We came here to save her from the truth, not listen, the nurse interrupted, stepping closer, her voice low. You boys have something within you that's intertwined with Lily's life. A legacy that binds you together. It's not just a choice. You need to break the cycle. What are you talking about? The third triplet interjected, his eyes darting between the nurse and Lily. It's a family secret, one too dangerous to carry on. You're at the precipice. Either confront it, or risk losing her forever, she whispered urgently before the nurses moved back toward the machinery and left the triplets in stunned silence. The words haunted them as they shared a moment of silence, choking on the depths of the nurse's revelation. Were they truly carrying something sinister? And how could they save Lily while grappling with an incomprehensible truth? We're not backing down, the first triplet declared, flaring with newfound courage. We need answers. We came this far, we have to finish this. They turned back toward the hallway, their bond stronger than the fear that pressed around them. We'll find that figure, the one who knows the truth. As they stepped out of ICU, a sudden clash echoed through the corridors, followed by chaotic shouting. Startled, they rushed forward, and there, at the far end of the full hall, a crowd gathered around a commotion. Out of the way! Shouted an authoritative voice, revealing Dr. Grimstone's tall frame moving through the carnage. He looked different now, visibly shaken, his expression torn between anger and remorse. Stop! You don't understand. He called out, pointing at someone in the crowd. In the midst of the confusion, a glint caught the light, and the triplets froze. It was the dark figure from moments before, moving with purposeful intent toward Dr. Grimstone. You can't take her. Grimstone's voice erupted in desperation. We have to protect her from this. Too late. The shadowy figure responded with a laugh that sent chills racing. The cycle begins now. The triplets felt the ground shift beneath them, each voice merging into a ghastly tune of urgency. Now! The first triplet yelled, and without hesitation, they surged forward through the chaos. Fear dissolved into adrenaline as they barreled toward the heart of the storm, determined to reclaim their lives. In the face of danger, the triplets stood together, ready to unearth the truth. The legacy they carried, no matter how twisted, would not slip from their fingers. Not when Lily's life hung in the balance, and as the uncertainty loomed ever larger, one resolution sparked in them: to fight, to understand, and finally, to reclaim their family from the grip of shadows. With their hearts aligned, they charged forward into the depths of destiny, knowing this was the moment they would either break the cycle or become hauntingly entangled within it forever. Now, they had to emerge victoriously, for Lily's sake, and for the truth that waited just out of reach. What happened next would shape their fates forever. If you've enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't let the chance to hear the next exclusive stories pass you by. It's time to show your support. And don't forget to smash that like button now to feed the algorithm with your love and keep this wild journey going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and thoughts about this incredible ending. What do you think happened to the triplets next? And last but definitely not least, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and join our community. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your engagement keeps this adventure alive.